Diamond, Eliza Bakar.
Woo! Yeah!
You guys, I love you. I'm so glad to be back here with all of you. It feels amazing. How does everybody feel about convention so far?
Woo!
Goodness. So let me tell you a little bit about me. Can we go back there? Sorry. So I'm a nurse practitioner by trade. I worked in the ICU for 16 years. I'm also a certified wellness practitioner and a doTERRA Diamond. Thank you, doTERRA. I quit my part-time job in the ICU 3.5 years ago. Yes, that.
Woo!
You guys, I'm here today to talk to you about the least likely thing that I would talk to you about if you had talked to me 8 years ago. I would have laughed at you if you had told me that an essential oil could change your emotions, could help you with trauma, and yet here I am today, and it's one of the things I am most passionate about. So today we're going to talk about how to use these tools to help you with emotions and to help people that are in trauma and grief. So to do that, we're going to get a little emotional, and I'm going to tell you my personal story about a time when I had oils and when I didn't have oils. So this is my brother, Stephen, my baby brother. In the 9th grade, he sat in his literature class and watched the Twin Towers fall 20 years ago. And he wrote an essay that day, and he said, when I graduate, I'm going to join the United States Marine Corps, and I'm going to make sure that no terrorist ever comes to my country again and kills people. And he did just that. 4 years later, he graduated from high school, and he joined the United States Marine Corps, and that's him. So he graduated.
Woo!
He graduated, and in July of 2006, he left for Iraq. I was in the middle of graduate school to become a nurse practitioner, and 10 weeks after he was there, I got a call that he was missing. So you can see him there. He was the star gunner in the turret of the Humvee. And one day, on a random day on patrol, his Humvee hit an IED bomb that blew a hole 6 feet deep in the ground and threw my brother into that canal. So for 2 days, Army dive teams looked for his body, and that river, that canal, actually flew out, connected out into the Euphrates River, which then connected out basically to the sea. So we actually didn't know if they would ever find him. But they found him about 10 football fields down from where the blast happened. His Psalm 91 bandana was still on, and his helmet was still on, and it had hooked on a branch. And so they brought him home, and we flew to Dover Air Force Base to the mortuary to make sure that we were there.
Okay.
When he hit American soil. That picture that you see there with him is my nephew David. And I think the hardest part about going to Dover Air Force Base, it's a very strange experience to know someone you love and then watch them being loaded into a van in a box. But the hardest part for me was watching David, my 8-year-old nephew, and not knowing that his best friend, his hero, who he looked up to and loved, was gone from his life. And how do you explain that to an 8-year-old child? What's happened? The horror of the world, the trauma of the world. That to me was what stuck with me that day. And what ensued for me was really emotional devastation. I was in graduate school, so I had to kind of keep going. I was placed on 5 pharmaceutical agents, and you mix that with some alcohol here or there. And I was very numb. I was 26 years old, and I was overtly suicidal at times. But no one knew it because I had to go to school, and I had to finish because I had to honor his life in that way, right? And you guys, it was 2006. doTERRA had not been born. I had when Julie Davey, my graduate school instructor and my current upline, introduced me to essential oils. And I was really curious, but I was very skeptical because I was steeped in modern medicine, right? So I started studying them, and I started studying the impact on the brain and our emotions. Well, fast forward 3 years later, that little boy, my nephew David, grew up and announced one day that he was going to join the United States Marine Corps. And I'm not going to lie, I was terrified. I cried, and I said, "No, you're not." And then I also started to realize very quickly when he left for Paris Island that I was going to have to go to his graduation and stand right there where my brother was in the barracks many years before and basically relive all of those emotions. Deep, deep grief. And I was terrified to go back to that place. And when I say that, I was almost paralyzed in trauma again. And my husband says to me, "Eliza, don't you remember you have tools? You know about all these tools you have.
Woo!
Create protocols, put everything you need to go and to be able to enjoy and experience and celebrate him in his journey." And so that was the Instagram post that I posted that day. So breathe. For that gripping feeling of grief when I couldn't breathe, right? When my chest was heavy. Past tense, when I would feel that head tension, just overwhelming grief and sadness. And then rolling for those low feelings, that deep longing that I had for my brother and missing him in my life. I didn't drink one glass of alcohol that weekend. I was fully present. I didn't have to numb myself. And I didn't numb out my feelings. I experienced them, but I was able to be fully present. And it was a completely different experience. So I'm a science nerd. So let's spend just a few minutes on the science of why this happens when we use oils aromatically for the brain. We're going to use oils and our supplements in a three-pronged approach when we're helping people with emotions, grief, trauma. When you smell something, you get a direct impact to that olfactory nerve in the back of your nose. And you guess what it stimulates? The limbic system, which is our emotional brain. It regulates so many things: heart rate, respiratory rate, cortisol production, behavior, emotions. So when you guys are smelling an oil, you're having a direct physiologic response to help mitigate all of those things in the body, that stress response. So let's not forget about our emotional field, okay? And I'll give you guys just some really quick tips and tricks about the aromatic ways to use them. Low feelings, anxious feelings are typically what we deal with, right? So when we're talking about low feelings, we want to sort of go to the other side of that, right? So we use citrus oils. Lots of citrus, lots of tree oils. So look at elevation, citrus bliss, cheer, motivate. When you or people you're helping are struggling with those anxious feelings, right? We need to kind of calm the body's stress response that's happening. And we're going to go to our peace blend, our console, forgive, adaptive, balance, serenity. And who has opened the new, I'm going to say it wrong, Huga.
Ooga!
Who's opened that blend?
Woo!
You guys, this is going to be a new blend for grief. I'm telling you right now. As I started to look at the oils and the way that it envelops you and its smell, use this for your people that need to cocoon themselves when they're in grief and in trauma, okay? Now, let's move to internal. And remember, we're using these all together. The aromatic cannot be left out without the internal. Our amazing adaptive capsules, a combination of oils and herbs, right? And I call GABA the pump the brakes neurotransmitter, okay? So that's why GABA is important there. And if you don't know a lot about Kana or Sclerotia tortuosum, you guys, it's amazing. It works as an herb to uplift those feelings without giving you any sort of sedative effects, okay? Not making you sleepy. Very important. I recommend using 1 to 2 in the morning and the afternoon as people need it. Now, I'm going to move fast here because I'm running out of time. Where would you? So, what you're going to use in conjunction with adaptive is copaiba. You guys know it works on the endocannabinoid system. You've heard a lot about that. But remember, this is working on a different pathway than some of the pathways in the adaptive capsule. And do you know how that helps people? Because it works on the body's stress response in 2 different ways. And when that happens, you get something called a synergistic enhanced effect. Okay? So when you're recommending adaptive, also give them the option to add 1 to 2 copaiba soft gels with that. And you can do that in the morning and the afternoon. Okay, here's a quick tip. When people feel anxious, have anxious feelings, when people are in grief, when people are in trauma, when people are in a moment of intensity. This is my favorite tool. And I had no idea all the science was going to go on about lavender. No clue. So it's just perfect. God works that way. So you can recommend for people 2 to 3 drops in a veggie cap. Yes, on top of the adaptive, on top of the copaiba, yes, it's okay. And now we know a lot about pharmacokinetics and half-life, so you can do that every 4 to 6 hours for someone and repeat that and know that it's going to be safe and okay. Lavender rescue remedy, if they don't have veggie caps, it's okay. Put 2 to 3 drops in a shot of water. There you go. Okay, so as I close, you guys, I would just like to talk for 2 seconds about, here we are, September 11th, anniversary, 20 years later. You guys, I think about the trauma of that day. I think about all the men and women like my brother that, because of that day, joined the war on terror and have fought and died in the trauma of war and the aftermath of that. And I think about the trauma of the last year and a half and everything that has happened to us. Some people are still on lockdown right now and cannot be here, and they're in trauma. How many of you have felt paralyzed in the last year and a half? Paralyzed in your business, paralyzed in life. Your deck of cards fell out from under you. We have experienced overt trauma in the last year and a half. And the only way to get out of our trauma is to help somebody else. I think about myself as that 26-year-old girl and how her life might have been different if she had had these tools. And so today I just want to recommit along with you guys, and I've been paralyzed through this year, to share what we have with people, because the world is no less chaotic and broken than it was on September 11, 2001. In fact, I think it's maybe more chaotic now. And people will always experience divide, grief, loss, trauma, divorce. And if we don't share what we have and what we've been given, who will?
Woo!
So thank you guys so much. As I stand here on the stage with you, I'm recommitting this year to making sure that I help as many people as I can that are struggling with emotions, struggling with grief, struggling with trauma, because we have the tools to help them.
Yeah!